Well, good afternoon to you all. Good afternoon. Sunday, 2nd of August. I've done the things that a chap should do on a Sunday morning, and now I'm trying to think of what I can do that's quiet and peaceful on a Sunday afternoon that doesn't involve starting lawnmowers, electric drills or anything noisy. So what I've done, I've audited what I've got here in the way of glass stuff. I've got some glass, I have got some lead, but I'm not sure that it's all the right profile for what I want. I've got my soldering iron, I've got my lead cutting knife, I've got my glass cutter. What I haven't got is any solder. Interestingly, I've got flux but no solder. So I'm not going to be making anything today. But that's not a problem, because the start of a job like this is to think of a design. For a start, it's not going to be a single piece. It's going to be perhaps 5 pieces, or perhaps 2 sheets of plain glass with a fancy in the middle. And it wants to reflect the nature that this is a bathroom. It's not a church, it's not a town hall. We might say it's a throne room. That sort of stretches things a little bit, but there will be a throne of sorts there. So it wants to be something that indicates this is just a humble bathroom, never forgetting that the object of the exercise is to let light to go through it. So we'll have a little bit of thinking that will involve a pencil and a ruler and things like that. Well, you know, it's Sunday afternoon and chap has got to do something. The caper with this, first of all, of course, is to design something, and that might look a little bit too much like some sort of Masonic symbolism, but it's just a bit of green blue glass that looks a little bit like it might be the water coming out of a shower, might be, might not be. I scrounged around and I found the right piece of channel. Now, when you work this stuff, you know, it is soft. I'll say lead. The purists will say, well, it's not straight lead, it's some sort of lead alloy. Exactly what, I don't really know. You know, you go to the shop and you ask for lead, and that's what they give you, and then you read the label and you find it's got all sorts of other things in it, and it's nice and soft, and of course it comes all kinked and bent and what have you. So you do need to make your own tools. Now, I've been to shops where you can buy all this sort of stuff, and yes, you can spend an absolute fortune on specialised tools for straightening lead, but what you actually want is something fairly soft and fairly simple. You know, that's just a bit of wood that was actually in my firewood pile, and I sharpened it a little bit with a chisel, and that's absolutely ideal for running along and straightening the lead. I was sort of pleased with myself. I got away with cutting the glass, not exactly perfect, but time that's closed in with the channel, that's going to do the job. The next trick with this is to find my assembly pins and assembly brackets. Now, one of the secrets to this is don't worry about the piece of wood that you're working on. That is sacrificial. You know, it's just a bit of plywood that I'd got. Don't worry about nicking it and cutting holes in it and banging nails in it. You're not going to use, you might use it again, but you know, that's fine. That especially goes when you cut the glass. You go off the end into the wood. You go off the end into the wood, straight off. You're not worried about damaging the little cutting wheel, because the cutting wheel is seriously hard. This is just a bit of plywood. So you zip backwards and forwards, well, one way, and then, but you go straight off the end. Then, you know, you put where you've scored the glass on the edge and you go click. And yeah, sometimes it breaks. I actually did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I did 12 cuts with only that as a little problem. Hang on, let me go and show you the pliers we use. Now, you can use an ordinary pair of pliers, but that tends not to work so well. These are made for the job pliers, and what you can see is one jaw is in effect hollow and one jaw is in effect flat. So you score along your bit of glass if you're doing a little piece, and then you grip it with, what way round? That way. It's fun, isn't it? You do it and then you try to explain it to someone else and you can't think what you're doing. Right, you score it and then the flat blade goes on top. So the side you scored has got the flat blade on it. The curved blade is underneath. Line it up exactly with your cut. You just go dink, and it's wonderful. Glass like this is a piece of handmade glass, and you find that can be a little bit treacherous, and you need to work away from, when you buy a sheet of this stuff, it's got a thick edge on it, and you know, you just can't use that. So you need to think about where you're cutting. Commercial glass, not a great problem. This is slightly patterned. One side is perfectly flat, the other side is slightly like that. So you cut on the flat side. And yeah, I'm sort of pleased with myself. Shouldn't be, but I am. As I say, the next job is to find all my pins for setting this up, and then to cut the joints. You know, cut little bevels in so that it all fits together nicely, push it all up nice and tight. What I'm going to do later tonight, I've found some solder that I actually got in a house clearance sale. It's marked up as lead, zinc, tin. I'm not going to use it on this, I'm going to use it on some scrap bits just to see if it works. You don't want to be pushing lots of heat into this because you're working in glass and soft thin gauge lead. So if that solder needs too much, and if I sort of melt out too much of the scrap bits of lead, then I won't use it. But tomorrow I will find a supplier of glazing leads, and we'll see what we can do on mail order. Now, what goes on here? Small people are getting brave. They're not very brave. If I walk towards them, they will run straight back into the barn. Well, Mum is having a little bit of a nightmare at the moment because children have decided it isn't bedtime. It's time to run about and chase each other and hide in the long grass. But Mum knows this is the time of night that our neighbours walk their dogs. So Mum's sort of worried